Okay, I'll go and try and find John in a sec. Okay.
So this is building one. So this is building one. So some sprayers have been passed and they've redecorated this building.
Right, we're live. You can either click to stop.
You hear me okay? Hi there, John Fuller with a Rebellion today. We're outside the offices of A&O Shearman in the City of London. These lawyers are arguably the number one firm of lawyers associated with facilitating massive expansion of fossil fuel activities. Between 2019 and 2023, this firm facilitated transactions totaling $80 billion. It's an enormous sum of money that is being pumped into the fossil fuel industry. And quite often we don't pay attention to the lawyers who actually facilitate this and who allow this to happen. So today, Extinction Rebellion are here and they're demanding that A&O Shearman cut the ties fossil fuels. I don't know if you want to turn your camera so that you can see. Hi, Tom. You all right?
I'll get a shot.
Hi there, yeah. So we're outside the offices of A&O Shearman here in the City of London. A&O Shearman are a firm of lawyers that do an enormous amount of work for fossil fuel industries. So people have occupied the entrance to the building here in the foyer, and there's also a tripod set up outside the building, and there's also fake oil sprayed over the front of the building entrance. Extinction Rebellion has come here because this firm is so closely associated with funding genocidal activities around the world, climate trashing policies that are happening all around the world. Now, as lawyers, they know their profession. They have standards of behaviour that they're all supposed to adhere to. But this firm does not adhere to those standards. As lawyers, you're supposed to act professionally, ethically, responsibly, do no harm, not kill people. That is a fundamental principle. You do not act for people who kill, who intend to kill, who are killing now and intend to kill through their activities in the future. So this firm, A&O Shearman, they're responsible for $285 billion worth of transactions between 2019 and 2023. This does huge damage around the world. This kills people. Now, lawyers in this firm were approached last week by a campaign group called, and they asked this firm to respond to their demands, to draw to the attention of their staff that they have a legal obligation not to act for people who intend to kill. And they didn't respond. A&O Shearman did not respond. So Extinction Rebellion has come back here today and is protesting in more dynamic terms, saying to A&O Shearman, you cannot just keep on ignoring us. You cannot just hope that this goes away, because it's not going to go away. Yesterday, in the International Court of Jurisdiction, there was a side event where the Deputy Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court was hearing evidence from experts in international criminal law. And when those experts in international criminal law were discussing climate change, mass loss of life, mass suffering, and the complete annihilation of low-lying island states, some very powerful points came out of that, including the fact that the International Criminal Court has a duty to act now to stop those who intend to kill. The International Criminal Court has a duty to stop prosecuting the key climate criminals now. Continue to the fact have political interests and fossil fuel interests and legal interests who are determined to kill, cause mass death on an unprecedented scale, mass suffering on an unprecedented scale, and completely annihilate nations like Tuvalu, Vanuatu, the Marshall Islands, the Solomon Islands. Firms like A&O Shearman, they have a duty of care to their staff. Is anybody in A&O Shearman warning their staff that they could be prosecuted? Is anybody in A&O Shearman warning their staff that if you come to work for us and you agree to work on fossil fuel activities, then you will be prosecuted. You will be called to account in a court of law. You could be prosecuted, you could be imprisoned. Is anybody warning staff here? Does the A&O Shearman take their responsibilities to the staff seriously? Does A&O Shearman have any care or consideration for its responsibilities of duty of care? No, is the answer to that. So if you are a young lawyer and you are considering coming to work for an A&O, make sure that company tells you in advance what the risks are of you working for this firm. If you're a young lawyer and you're considering any law firm, ask whether they're actually working to facilitate mass death, mass suffering, and annihilation by continuing to facilitate transactions in the fossil fuel industry. So this firm, A&O Shearman, is showing absolutely no regard for life, and it's showing absolutely no regard for its responsibilities to young lawyers who it's attempting to recruit. It should be warning them that you could end up in prison if you work on fossil fuel-related contracts. So I reiterate that today Extinction Rebellion is here outside A&O Shearman, arguably the UK's #1 firm of lawyers acting on behalf of the fossil fuel industry. $185 billion worth of trade. This is a major firm of lawyers responsible for causing mass death, mass suffering, annihilation of low-lying island states. So people
Hello, my name's James. I'm taking action tomorrow and pre-recording this in case I get arrested. They say behind every oil well is a lawyer. And in the case of A&O Shearman, they're behind $285 billion worth of transactional work for fossil fuel industry over 4 years. It's appalling that anyone would seek to accelerate the climate and ecological emergency. 2024 has been a year of record heat. We're beyond any safe limits. More oil and gas now sets us on a path to spiraling disaster. So we call on all employees of A&O Shearman to refuse to do any work for the fossil fuel clients. We ask for any new talent to go elsewhere, and we demand A&O Shearman cut the ties to fossil fuels.
There, derrick. Sorry, what's your name? Yeah. Well, that's cool. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, hi. Why have you come here today?
To protest of oil extraction.
Why have you chosen this target?
Well, they say that Stone Age didn't end because technologies get ready to do something. It's technology here. So, natural progression. In the 20th century, economists called it great destruction. But what happens is that the outgoing technologies fight tooth and nail to keep their profit, keep their power. And that's what's happening here. The oil industry is finished. Everybody knows that. But people like A&O Shearman are helping to prop it up, to keep it going longer than need, longer than is justified, longer than is humane. Because it's doing so much damage, but it's on the way out. They talk about buried assets. They're going to cripple all sorts of companies, pension schemes, and so forth. Because these guys are helping the oil companies continue to make their short-term profit. They've got to go.
You have one message for A&O Shearman today. What is it?
You're a law firm. Find somebody else to serve. You're not committed to the oil industry. You're involved in the same way as chickens are involved in a cooked breakfast by providing eggs. But pigs are committed. The oil industry, in that analogy, are the pigs. They're committed to oil. You're a law company. You're not committed. Go and do something else.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Get the shit off. That's a bit. Okay, you want to speak? Okay, yeah, probably here with Extinction Rebellion outside the office of A&O Shearman. Here, accused lawyers in. Can you hear me? Okay, got me now? All right, okay. So, yeah, here we are with Extinction Rebellion outside the offices of A&O Shearman in the City of London. A&O Shearman are a huge firm of lawyers, arguably the worst firm of lawyers in the City of London, for funding fossil fuel, for facilitating fossil fuel industry activities. A&O Shearman supported transactions of $285 billion between 2019 and 2023. Last week, lawyers are responsible and Extinction Rebellion scientists came here to this site making certain demands of A&O Shearman, which they completely ignored. Lawyers are responsible and exile scientists just simply stood out here with placards and banners and asked politely for A&O Shearman to stop facilitating mass suffering, mass death, and the annihilation of low-lying island states. Because ultimately that is what they're doing. That is what they facilitate here. As lawyers, they ought to know that they must not act for firms or activities or industries that intend to kill. They intend to undertake activities they know will kill. So that is intent to kill. Lawyers must not get involved in that. Now, A&O Shearman have been asked to respond to ensure that their staff will not be required to undertake activities involving fossil fuel interests. But it goes further than that. There's a greater responsibility upon A&O Shearman, and that is that their staff could be prosecuted. They could be prosecuted for facilitating activities that result in mass death, mass suffering, and annihilation of nations like Tuvalu, Vanuatu, the Marshall Islands, and Solomon Islands. Yesterday, not me, no. Yesterday, in the International Court of Justice, there were hearings taking place about what are the criminal responsibilities, what are the responsibilities of nation states in relation to climate change. As part of those hearings, there was expert legal opinion from specialists in international criminal law who said the International Criminal Court has a duty to act now to warn politicians and firms like A&O Shearman and the fossil fuel industry that they must not act in such a way as it causes mass death, mass suffering, and annihilation. So the International Criminal Court could be prosecuting people who work in this firm. This is coming. This is coming right at you. Now, A&O Shearman have two responsibilities. One is to stop doing what they're doing. The second is to make sure their staff know the risks they're getting involved in. Now, are they taking their duty of care responsibilities seriously? Are A&O Shearman warning their staff they could be prosecuted? And what about young new lawyers who come to work for firms like A&O Shearman? Is that company going to warn them that they could end up being prosecuted for working on contracts that facilitate mass death, mass suffering, and the annihilation of low-lying island states? Let's be absolutely clear here who the criminals are. The criminals are not these people here. They are not the people who say, please don't kill, please stop funding killing. These are not the criminals. The criminals are in that building. And as lawyers, you know that. You know you have a responsibility. Your professional standards make it clear you must not act for people who intend to kill. So, okay. Do you want to just scan around and show everybody where the extent of this?
John, could you tell us about COP29? Was there any deal made? Or,
No, so COP29, it was largely considered by global South countries, the victims nations on the front line of climate breakdown, to have been a massive failure. They need over $1 trillion a year to help them cope with the impacts of climate change. The GDP in several countries now is going backwards because climate change is pushing those countries backwards. They're not getting any wealthier, they're not standing still, they're actually getting poorer. And it's climate change that is doing that. Now, at COP29, those nations demanded that they be given reparations for what had been done to them. And the world did not step up. The wealthy world did not say, right, we're going to give you the money that you are owed. We will not pay you. And so as a consequence, COP29 was widely seen as a failure. Now, this is an important point that more firms, legal firms, are coming to realize. And that is that the global South nations are demanding reparations. Now, international criminal law allows for the payment of reparations. And it's firms like this that could end up paying reparations. They will end up having to contribute to the vast amount of damage they have done. Think about it carefully, everybody who works here. That means you personally, not just your firm, but you personally. You are responsible for your actions. We are responsible for our actions out here. You in that building must be responsible for what you do. So COP29 has resulted in far more legal firms, responsible lawyers, looking at how do we get reparations, force people like this to pay for reparations for the harm that they have.
Thank you very much, John.
Okay, do we want to switch over?
Current. Let's keep talking. Go on camera that's live.
All right.
If that's okay with you.
Yes, it's absolutely fine.
No, A&O Shearman, do you know who any of our oily customers are? And can you talk about them and their...
We got married. Marianne here. Let's just quickly go to her.
Yeah.
And see whether we've got more detail on that.
Excellent. Thank you. Sorry? With the only camera slide, if you want shots every Thursday, so don't feel like a spot. We can do scanning shots, yeah. I wear brown coat. Feel free to walk up and down with your flag. Oh, okay. That looks correct. Good. Are you members of the public? Huh? Are you members of the public? No, I'm Portuguese. Portuguese, you're tourists? Yeah. What do you think of our action today? Just put I don't know, I just got here. You're just learning about it.
And we want to go back to people again because people may be joining the live stream. So if you, I wonder whether we'll start by repeating the reasons why we're here.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if anybody new to this,
yeah, cool.
Okay.
This next setup.
Okay.
Hi, I'm here with John Fuller. Where are we?
So we're outside the offices of A&O Shearman in the City of London. This is arguably the largest firm in the City of London that is involved in facilitating the transactions worth 285 billion over a 4-year period from 2019 to 2023 for the fossil fuel industry. This is a major facilitator of activities of the fossil fuel industry. They are responsible for contract negotiation and all manner of areas of work and expertise that they provide to fossil fuel the industry. Now, as a consequence of that, they get people killed. There is no doubt at all about the science. firms like A&O Shearman know full well that hundreds of thousands of people are being killed every year by climate change. They know that millions of people every year are killed by fossil fuel pollution, soot, and other toxic emissions. They know that these activities kill, and yet they are actually facilitating further expansion of fossil fuel industries. Now, this is really important. As lawyers know that they have certain legal responsibilities. There's a code of practice that they have, and they are obliged to adhere to certain principles. And it is clear that you actually have to act in the interests of all. You have to act not to kill people. It's a vital principle that you do not act in such a way that you will allow a firm or individuals to kill. Now, with climate change, we know the science is absolutely clear that hundreds of thousands of people will be killed every year, and that number will continue to grow because of the lawyers who work for firms like A&O Shearman. So A&O Shearman has a crucial responsibility here to the public, to society at large, to nations in the global south that are suffering terribly now, and also to their own staff. A&O Shearman has a duty of care to its own staff to make sure that they understand that they could be called to account in a court of law for the actions they have taken. Now, this is really important to understand where the law is going. Yesterday, there were hearings in the International Court of Justice on the legal obligations of nation states with regard to climate change. Now, as part of that, there was a side event led by the Deputy Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, and there were various experts in international criminal law giving their expert opinion. And what was clear was that the International Criminal Court is obliged to act now to stop the killing, to stop the harm, to intervene and say to people, you will be prosecuted. You will be prosecuted. And the International Criminal Court has cases there already that relate to mass harm, mass death, mass suffering caused by climate change. So the International Criminal Court is coming under enormous pressure to act to stop those who kill. The implications are clear that the staff who work here for A&O Shearman could end up at the International Criminal Court. They can actually be prosecuted already under UK legislation because we're signatories to the International Criminal Court. We are signed up by virtue of the International Criminal Court Act 2001. So this firm, they understand that. They understand that far better than anybody else out here probably protesting today. They understand the legalities of this. Are they warning their staff? We don't believe they are. Are they warning new recruits? We don't believe they are. And to the legal profession as a whole, are you warning your young trainee lawyers that if they act for fossil fuel interests, that they could be prosecuted? They could go to prison. Do they understand the significance of what they are doing? To reiterate, you are not allowed to kill people. You're not allowed to kill hundreds of thousands of people a year. You are not allowed to obliterate nations like Tuvalu, Vanuatu, the Solomon Islands, Marshall Islands. The list goes on. How many nations have to be completely annihilated before criminal action is taken? Well, now we know that the International Criminal Court is very likely to start taking up these cases. So do not think today, the protesters out here, people taking dynamic action to stop climate change, they are not the criminals. They are acting to stop a far greater crime. That we all have obligations in life. And if we as individuals know that a firm or politicians intend to kill millions of people, we have a duty to act. And the people here are acting because the police won't act. The police have a duty to act to stop killers, but they're not going to act. None of these coppers here are going to act to stop the killers, but they will act to try and stop peaceful protesters who are trying to stop climate breakdown and mass death, mass suffering and annihilation. So that's us. That's why we're here today.
Currently, John, there are 21 peaceful climate protectors in prison, in UK prisons.
Yes.
We have a new administration who want to reduce the prison population.
Yes.
So why are we? Can you speak to?
I can. There's some. Yeah.
Peaceful protesters in prison.
Okay. So there are definitions of what a political prisoner is, and the European Parliamentary Assembly has a definition and a document that sets out what a political prisoner is. And climate activists completely fit that definition of what a political prisoner is. That is that you send down people for far longer period of time than say, others who commit any kind of comparable offence. So here in the UK, we send down for 4 or 5 years peaceful, non-violent climate activists who take have no intention of taking any form of violent action whatsoever. So we send them down for 4 or 5 years, but there are other categories of very violent people who are given suspended prison sentences. So they're singled out, and that's one definition of what makes somebody a political prisoner. The other is this idea that you've got people here trying to save lives. Everybody knows that climate defenders are the people who try to save lives. The government doesn't defend that. The current government doesn't dispute that fact. And yet, we have people sent down for 4 or 5 years, some people in their late teens and early 20s who know that they could be killed. They act to defend themselves and their generation, and yet they're sent to prison for very lengthy periods of time. Now, you become a political prisoner, you're defined as a political prisoner when the people who are doing the killing are set free. There are no sanctions against them whatsoever. The fossil fuel industry executives who know that they kill, there are no criminal sanctions being applied against them, and yet the state knows that they're breaking the law. So that is a definition, another definition of a political prisoner. You've got killers that support the government supports what the killers are doing, the government protects those killers, but it bangs up 4 or 5 years, very young people quite often, who peacefully try to stop the killers. This is a classic definition of what a political prisoner is. So let's be clear. The UK has political prisoners, and I submit this to everybody, and that is that judges who hear these cases, they know full well that they are sending down people who will be defined as political prisoners. No judge should behave in that way. No judge. No member of the Crown Prosecution Service should behave that way. So both judges and Crown Prosecution staff break their ethical codes. So, yeah, we do have political prisoners in the UK, and this is becoming gradually more and more clear to people. More people are coming to understand that. And the day will come when senior people and staff who work on fossil fuel industry activities here will be called to account for what they've done in a court of law. A&O Shearman needs to face up to that. Last week, they ignored lawyers are responsible. They ignored XR scientists. Well, this week, we've come back. And I think the people here from Extinction Rebellion have got their attention.
So what was our demand to A&O Shearman?
They should allow staff to have conscientious reasons for not engaging in any kind of fossil fuel related work. So they should not be told, well, if you don't work on this particular contract involving New North Sea Oil or whatever it may be, we'll sack you. And then there could be repercussions for other firms that you work for. So the lawyers are responsible approach was to protect staff here who have a conscience. So if you've got a conscience, you know full well you don't work on a fossil fuel contract. You know full well that you don't try to dig more fossil fuels out of the ground through your activities. Everybody knows that. They pretend they don't, but they know. And so lawyers were responsible. They were trying to ensure that lawyers have some degree of protection for trying to do the right thing in life. So trying to adhere to the code that lawyers sign up to when they join the profession. But today, Extinction Rebellion, others here today are saying something much more powerful. And that is, A&O Shearman, you're breaking the law, and you know you're breaking the law, and you are risking the imprisonment of your staff, and you must stop. You must stop now. Okay?
Last month, we
Yes.
were in the City of London. We were targeting insurance industry, and very similar, huge numbers of vacancies in these dirty industries. So I never knew as a climate activist that we would actually be squeezing legal firms, insurance companies to stop them facilitating the destruction of our planet.
Absolutely right. Yeah. So public perhaps tends to think that the guilty party here are the fossil fuel industries and politicians who allow the expansion of fossil fuel activities. But none of this can take place without the lawyers who facilitate it, who write the contracts, who sign the contracts. And none of it can take place without the insurance industry underwriting those activities. And it's absolutely vital that both industries are challenged by groups like Extinction Rebellion, and made clear to all that Extinction Rebellion is challenging you. They're coming here to say you have to stop. And that applies to certainly insurance the legal profession, as well as fossil industries and politicians who ultimately allow all of this to carry on. So, yeah, Extinction Rebellion did a brilliant job last month of challenging the insurance industry. And people can look back on the website and they can see some of the spectacular things, dynamic things that Extinction Rebellion did. Okay?
Take a little break now.
Yes, I think so. Bye-bye.
Yeah. So we are here outside the lawyers, one of the worst lawyers, and the irony is that they were already terrible when they were two separate firms, and now they've merged to become one giant evil law firm, which is I suppose how things go these days. Let's go and speak to some of the protesters here outside A&O Shearman. Hello. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm very pleased to be standing right here.
So, can you tell us a little bit more about this action? Yeah, go for it. Or you can look at me,
All right.
whatever you want.
Okay. I'm sorry, you asked me a question.
Yeah. So, why are you standing here today? What's happening?
I'm standing here because it's essential if we are to retain life on the planet that we cut fossil fuels. And fossil fuel business cannot happen without legal advice for transactions, for mergers, for project financing, for all kinds of things. The people that work in this building are doing that. They're providing advice to fossil fuel companies and fossil governments like Abu Dhabi and the Saudis. As long as they do that, these transactions will continue. New drilling will happen, pipelines will happen. Without them, none of this can happen. And this is essential. We hear a lot about these days about alternatives to fossil fuels, about ways to sequester carbon. Well, the simplest thing to do is simply stop using this stuff, to stop drilling for more, etc. And so consequently, I can't think of a better place to be than reminding the people that work here, reminding people that might want to consider working here, that there's better things to do with your life.
Yeah. There's been like a list of law firms that are the worst, and I believe this firm got an F for being.
They did. I believe that was an effort by law students to look at law firms globally. This A&O Shearman is one of the largest firms there are, and they do an awful lot of project fuel financing. I think the number is something like $285 billion over a 4-year period of transactions they facilitated. There's a lot of ways to make money. There are a lot of industries to get fees from.
Yeah.
They don't need to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you finding the response? Is anyone in the public speaking to you, or is people?
Infrequently.
Yes.
There's a pretty considerable police presence here, and I don't think that encourages people to come over and say hi to us.
Yeah.
But I wish more people would.
Yeah. So what made you personally come and take this action? What do you do when you're not out here protesting?
Well, happily, I'm a happily retired mother and grandmother. I spend a lot of my time working on volunteering for things in the climate, the climate emergency space, if you will. I particularly spend time actually counseling at this point, as well as protesting pension funds to try to get them to divest from fossil fuels. Truth be told, I used to work in a business that employed folks like this.
Oh, really?
And I know they can do other things to make a living.
So that's actually extremely powerful. Someone who knows what goes on the inside, and you're saying they don't need to rely on this income stream.
They don't. These firms provide advice to every manner of industry on the planet. Yeah. If I were their management, frankly, I would think it was incumbent on us to try to do less and less for oil and gas. Just like investors need to kind of wake up, smell the coffee, and sell their fossil fuel shares, these folks also want to do less and less business with oil and gas and more with parts of the economy which are going to grow. Inevitably, oil and gas firms are going to stop doing new business at some point.
Yeah.
Hope we're not all dead first.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is the trick, isn't it? We've got the tricky part. We've got very little time. So it's interesting because we were in the city only a few weeks ago, talking to the insurance industry, and that's really what I love about the Cut the Ties campaign, is that it really lays those links. So it's insurance, it's law firms, it's PR agencies, marketing. It's not just the usual suspects of Shell, BP, Exxon. It's all these more hidden organizations. Do you think people in the building are aware that they have the opportunity to be essentially climate heroes, to turn down these kinds of projects?
I'm sure that some do. There is, in fact, I would suggest probably a rather small part of A&O businesses, the climate is the fossil fuel transition, energy transition, and they have clients in that patch. But I think that's going to be a rather slim part of their revenues by comparison to the fees they're getting off oil and gas. I think it's quite surprising, in some of the insurance actions that have happened as part of Cut the Ties, that some folks working inside those firms really did not know how much of their business was coming from fossil fuels. So I think it's entirely likely that these guys don't either. It's a sort of a hard-nosed business. You do your thing, you come in, you particular road that you plow. You're on your treadmill. You're not looking around so much at what's happening in other parts of the firm. So there may well be folks that don't know.
Yeah. So hopefully, even just by us being here, making a bit of a splash, hopefully it's starting some conversations inside the building.
I certainly hope so. And if I can just say that I've spent 5 years, I would say, very actively involved in trying to encourage pension funds to sell oil and gas shares. It's really clear that oil and gas companies have no interest in getting out of the oil and gas business. Why would they? There's this notion that somehow you can engage with them and convince them to do something else for a living. I don't buy it. Therefore, if we want to stop them being in this business, I can't think of a better thing to do than to make it impossible to either finance, talk to the banks, to reach agreements, talk to the lawyers, to ensure make the business that they're in. And that's what Cut the Ties is all about. I think it's probably the best targeted climate emergency set of actions that's going on anywhere, because it really, these are the people that can make a difference. God, I hope they will.
So they're the businesses that will make business as usual impossible. They have that opportunity. So just need a few brave law firms, a few brave insurance companies to say no.
Yeah, I guess they need to be brave, because they sort of have to negotiate their relationships with their clients and with other folks. But by and large, they don't have to answer to shareholders in the way that many even insurers need to do that. These guys have a little more freedom to act. And I would say it's not just a question of being brave; it's a question of being farsighted. It's a question of understanding how to manage the risk of their business. They're at a lot of risk. Of one of their significant revenue streams disappearing. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it totally makes sense. And I really, really hope that, the people passing by, the people in the buildings, I'm sure they're looking down at us now, that some of this message will come across. We're not necessarily saying, you need to stop being a lawyer. We're just saying stop being a lawyer for certain companies, essentially.
Absolutely. They just really don't need to be financing the fossil fuel sector. There's just there's a businesses booming in all kinds of ways in all kinds of places. This is the home of finance. There's a lot of financing of industries other than oil and gas. You don't need to make a living this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us, and thank you so much for being here as well. Lovely.
No place I'd rather be.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, if you're going to do something on a Wednesday afternoon, you might as well try and do something for the planet, right? So yeah, thank you so much. Right. So I'm sure John has already talked you through this, but yeah, we've got here the Black Reaper sitting on a tripod with obviously the scales with planet Earth on one side and wads of money on the other side, with a yeah, very stark, dark, kind of morbid imagery there, which is of course exactly what we're trying to present to the people working for this company, for A&O Shearman, but also for the passers-by, that they understand a little bit what happens inside these buildings. Because although these buildings are all glass and, you know, very light, and it is very secretive and untransparent what happens in these companies. I was just speaking to a few members of the public who were just walking past and trying to explain to them, you know, why we're targeting this specific building and this specific company. And I think lots of people don't understand that oil companies, or, you know, other carbon intensive companies, don't function just on their own. They need a whole host of other companies around them: lawyers, insurers, PR, marketing, all these kinds of companies to make their engineers, um, to make their work possible. So by targeting these who are propping up the Shells and the Chevrons and the BPs, we're hoping that they can move away from working on those projects and realizing that there are other things that they can work on instead, and not fossil fuel projects. Let's go and see if there's some other people that we can have a little chat with. So there's another entrance here to the building. And also, I don't know if you've already seen, the elephants here have been decorated with some really powerful messaging as well. So the climate crisis is leading to food shortages for elephants. The elephant in the room is climate change. So of course, these little statues are about sponsorship and protection of elephants. But of course, one of the main things you can do to protect elephants is to make sure that the habitat isn't destroyed, that the climate isn't collapsing, so that they have enough food and water to survive, which at the moment, this law firm is actually contributing to the destruction of habitats and the breakdown of climate that is impacting the lives of elephants like these directly. So the fact that, you know, these statues are
Mariana. I know, yeah. Hey, Vlad, I can hear you. Yeah, 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 yeah. Our fantastic banner holders here. Thank you. Person dressed as death in a tripod. who's just let smoke flare. Still got oil on this building of A&O Shearman, and we're in Spitalfields in the City of London. Got John Fuller here.
Hi there. Okay, so can you hear me okay? Okay, so here we go again. So just for people who've joined the live stream late, I'm just going to quickly run through what's actually happening here today. We have Extinction Rebellion outside the offices of A&O Shearman, a major firm of lawyers in the City of London. A&O Shearman is arguably the worst firm of lawyers for facilitating transactions relating to fossil fuels. Between 2019 and 2023, they facilitated 200 contracts worth $285 billion. It's enormous. The amount of money that is being funneled into fossil fuel industries and activities and being facilitated by a firm of lawyers here. And now, the firm of A&O Shearman, they know full well that lawyers have certain responsibilities in life about not doing any harm, about not acting against the law, not facilitating people to undertake activities we know that will kill. Sorry, there's a bit of movement going on here, but we're okay. So, yeah, A&O Shearman know their legal responsibilities. They know that they have responsibilities to A&O Shearman know they have responsibilities. They know they have responsibilities to their staff. Now, yesterday in the International Court of Justice, there were hearings taking place in connection with the legal responsibilities of nation states with regard to climate change. Now, as part of that process, there was a session led by the Deputy Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. And there was evidence given to that about the use of international criminal law in relation to mass death, mass suffering caused by climate change. Now, at that session, experts in international criminal law said the ICC has a duty to act now. So firms like A&O Shearman, they know full well what the law is. They know full well that they are not allowed to facilitate activities that will cause mass death and mass suffering and annihilation of low-lying island states. A&O Shearman, as a firm, is well aware that the activities that it is supporting and facilitating will result in the annihilation of Tuvalu, Vanuatu, the Marshall Islands, Solomon Islands, Kiribati, and other nations. They will be completely removed from the map. That is a unique crime against humanity. And completely removing a nation from the map is technically in law an act of genocide. Now, this firm, that's what they're involved in. And what happened yesterday in the International Court of Justice and before the International Criminal Court was that we need to be using international criminal law right now to stop people like this. So will A&O Shearman now say to its staff, look, you could be prosecuted. You could end up on trial in a court of law, and you could go to prison. This is really, really important point to understand. That outside here, outside the offices of A&O Shearman, we have people who are acting peacefully to try and stop those who kill. And inside the building, we have lawyers who know exactly what they're doing, and they know that they are facilitating mass death, mass suffering, and extermination of low-lying island states. They know that. They understand that. They understand the law. They know the difference between direct intent and oblique intent. They know all about common purpose, joint enterprise, legal terms. They understand, and they understand that their staff could be prosecuted. Now, last week, lawyers responsible and Extinction Rebellion scientists came here and held placards up outside. And A&O Shearman would not engage with them. They would not answer their questions. They would not say to lawyers responsible, give them certain undertakings, like, for instance, saying to staff, you will not be compelled to work on contracts involving fossil fuel industries. Lawyers are responsible wanted to try and protect their staff. Got nothing back from A&O Shearman at all. Well, now Extinction Rebellion have come here. And now we're demanding their attention. We're demanding that they stop trying to ignore their legal responsibilities as individuals in there and as a company to its staff. And if you're a young lawyer, somebody who's trained to be a lawyer, you need to think very carefully about the firms you go to work for. Because if you come working for a firm like A&O Shearman and they say you've got to work on a fossil fuel contract, you could end up on trial. You could end up in a court of law. You could go to prison. Is anybody warning you when you're at college? Is anybody warning you? Because what has happened at the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice is trials are coming.
So we're just going to move over here, John. We believe there's some arrests underway.
Right. So what I want to make a point here, okay, so if arrests are taking place, I want to make it clear that these people are political prisoners. If they are committed to prison, they meet the definition of what it is to be a political prisoner. The European Parliamentary Assembly has definitions of what a political prisoner is. And if you act peacefully to stop killers, if you're acting peacefully to stop killers, but the state and the criminal justice system protect those killers, then that meets part of the definition of what a political prisoner is. So the European Parliamentary Assembly has specific definitions, and anybody arrested or charged or prosecuted, anybody at all involved in defending our climate who ends up in prison are technically political prisoners. And I submit this to the criminal justice system. You know it. If you're a judge, you know it. If you're a judge, you should not be involved in this. You should not participate. It's not the role of a judge to facilitate, through their activities, the annihilation of low-lying island states. It's not the role of a judge to facilitate, allow to happen, mass killing of people on the front line of climate breakdown, mass suffering and annihilation of low-lying island states. And it's the same with lawyers, whether they work for the Crown Prosecution Service or whether they work for A&O Shearman. Everybody knows. Everybody knows what their responsibilities are. They pretend they don't, but the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice have made it clear where the direction of travel is. We know where this is going.
Have any enabling companies been prosecuted? So from the insurance companies, from the legal companies, from financiers?
The campaign group called UK Youth Climate Coalition worked with the New Zealand campaign group called Students for Climate Solutions. They developed a very, very detailed case against BP plc, and that is at the International Criminal Court. They are seeking the prosecution of board members at the International Criminal Court. So this process has begun. Amnesty International has a legal department that is looking in detail at all of this. So large eco-NGOs are getting involved. Let's be absolutely clear to firms like A&O Shearman that prosecutions are coming. You will end up in court. You will be prosecuted. You will be put on trial. And if you're found guilty, you could go to prison. So that is the direction of travel. And firms like A&O Shearman need to understand that. They need to protect their staff, ensure that they are not compelled to act on any fossil fuel industry related activities whatsoever. So we have one case, there are several cases at the International Criminal Court, but as regards fossil fuel industry, that one is from the UK Youth Climate Coalition. Really important point from shareholders, whether they're involved in any industries like this, is that the UK Youth Climate Coalition case against BP involves the payment of reparations. Something called Article 75 of the Rome Statute allows for the payment of reparations to victims, and their case involves that. So if you've got investments in A&O Shearman, you need to be thinking very carefully whether you're going to lose the lot, because the sum of money that is due in reparations runs into the multi-trillions. It's not billions, it's trillions. And that is what's coming at firms like this, unless they stop. And they need to stop right now.
Some drumming now. Okay. So thank you, John. We'll come back to you later. Is Marcus still waiting to be arrested? him again.
So what also has to happen sometimes when you're on a protest is hold a banner. So that's what I'm doing right now. We'll just have to find some replacement at one stage. But this is a very savvy banner because it has some string at the bottom to stop it from blowing away. So we know about banners. We sure know about banners at Extinction Rebellion. So the Samba band has just joined us, which is wonderful because it isn't a proper protest without the Samba band. But we will go and speak to some of the others over on the other entrance in a moment. We just need to find a banner holder replacer. So we might just... Tom, are you able to get Tom to hold the banner for us? Got banner holding replacement. Thanks, Tom. And then we will quickly go and see what is happening over there on the other side. Obviously, the banners. Okay, fine. So we'll just stand over there and see. So can you? Yes. Hello. Are you interested in being on the XR live stream? Yes, that's very kind. Sorry? Oh no, don't worry. We're used to the drummers being loud. And we need them. We need them. I know. We really do need them. They really do. What's been happening here?
Well, we decided it would be a good idea to decorate their front door for them. It's Christmas time, so a little decoration goes a long way.
Very nice. Has there been any from anyone inside the building other than what are you doing?
No, really. Clearly somebody within the building made some phone calls to friends, more friends, and some very senior police officers have turned up.
Oh, very nice. Some senior ones, you say? Oh, well, what an honour.
Turn around and look at the pips on that shoulder.
Oh, yes. Well, obviously, we're such scary bunch. You need the highest of the highest order to come here and protect this building that homes people who are being lawyers for some planetary destruction. So yes, we must protect them.
Well, I love the idea of the insurance companies and the legal firms and the other facilitators They're involved in the fossil fuel industry, whereas the fossil fuel industry themselves are committed. And it's the same analogy for cooked breakfast.
Yeah.
The chickens producing the eggs, they're connected.
Oh, sorry, 1 second. Have you dropped out? Oh, you've dropped out.
Looks
sorry.
like I'm dropping out.
Sorry, yeah, no, we're going to have to get you on with the other live streamer. I don't know where she is right now. Oh, with Mazza, yeah. Oh, you've talked to Mazza. Oh, amazing. But Tim's signal keeps dropping out, so. Oh, how frustrating. Oh, she's there. Can you see? Sorry. May or may not come back to you. Inside as well. Oh, what arrest happening inside? Okay, amazing. Thank you. Okay. Are you live? Yeah. Okay, great. So, arrested inside. Do you already have that?
Shall I grab them?
Yeah. They're taking his trousers off. I think they're the same. Oh, okay. Oh no, not leaflets. Leaflets. Oh no. They're searching. I know. It's like, what are they doing? Is Katie being arrested as well?
Didn't recognise you there, Kate.
I know.
You look great. Can you try and get a good quality shot? Going to stay with the action, the arrest action. Al is on the floor. He's people. He's still standing. So this is the protest liaison who gathered data about the arrests. Obviously, the live stream footage also. So this is the offices of A&O Shearman, a lawyer who aids and abets the oil industry in getting around the law in order to drill new wells.
It's your footage, yeah.
So that's me, and that's what's live. So when they're the same, it means you're live. Yeah. It uses battery like crazy, and I haven't got the best best sound set up. Just so these are the arrests. You can see Al's goods are being put in a bag there.
I got a few good shots, but
Cameras are behind us. So these are the offices of A&O Shearman in Spitalfields in the City of London, which today have been sprayed with a oil-like substance. On Bishop Square. Lots of police vans waiting at the other end. Just waiting for the arrests now. There. So that's right. Other building of A&O Shearman, holding right in its balance. And extras and drummers. Outreaches in the square. This is the other building now. Built upon some ancient Roman remains here. So if we go back like this, there won't be a planet. Yeah. So here's Katie. Katie's sitting in a chair. I think she's been spoken to, and for whatever reason, police have decided to lay Al, one of our scientists, on the floor to arrest him. So the officers of A&O Shearman, an enabler of fossil fuels. We've been talking this morning to John Fuller, and there are laws now within the ICJ for it to arrest enablers of fossil fuels, and that includes financiers and lawyers who facilitate these projects. So instead of peaceful protesters being arrested, hopefully soon in future we'll see the oil execs being arrested. Our scientists. So death. Do you want to have an interview? Yeah, that's what's in here. Oh, this bit, yeah. Hi. Oh, what's your name?
I'm Peddler. That's
Hi,
my peddler.
And why did you come here to A&O Shearman in the City of London this morning?
Well, I usually support the Cut the Ties campaigns, and it's cut the ties to crude oil. And
Shearman are not doing that. In fact, they're one of the worst offenders. And unless they do cut the ties properly, the temperature of the global temperatures are going to rise with massive consequences, which they don't appear to care about. I want a future, not just for my grandchildren, but for the next generation, and a future, a global future for everybody, not just the elite few, which is what I think they're aiming for. They'll probably be okay, never mind the rest of the world. So I'm here.
John Fuller has been speaking this morning about the ICJ. The lawyers are responsible. There will be legal processes to criminally arrest the lawyers, the financiers, the insurers of fossil fuels. So what do you say this morning, Pedler, that peaceful climate activists, as we speak, are getting arrested inside this building? What do you think about that?
I don't understand why, but then there's a lot I don't understand. I don't understand why the damaging people are prioritized and how they're not held to account. It just does not make sense to me. They've got too much power. I think that's the problem. Too much money, too much power. Yeah.
So you'll be supporting your local MP in the CAN bill?
My local MP is Alex Baker. She's a Labour MP. And I want her to be elected at the next election, but I don't hold out too much hope that she is going to support the right thing. Alex Baker, I'm really sorry to say that, but you haven't shown that you're going to do that quite yet.
So the climate and nature bill makes ecocide a crime, and it sounds like that's what we need.
It really, really is. We've somehow got to persuade our government and our political leaders to be on the side of justice, and they're not at the moment. They're servants to something that I don't understand. Yeah.
Anything else that you'd like to say to camera this morning?
I'll be here next time. It's becoming so urgent that I'll be here again and again and again. Yeah.
Thank you, Pedler.
Thank you.
This is Al, one of our scientists, is lying on the floor of A&O Shearman, an enabler of fossil fuels.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
So here we've got the arrival now of the oily slickers. So the oily slicks turn up wherever there is fossil fuel enablers. The oily slicks are here this morning to call out A&O Shearman. Here's death in the background. And the oily slickers, they don't speak. So it's called artivism. Yeah, well.
Can you not stand behind my colleague, please? Can you stand on this side, please? Not behind my colleague. Thank you. I need to get
Arrestee coming out.
We're back. Shearman are investing and are enabling of facilitating $285 of investment in fossil fuel industry when there must be no new oil fossil fuel to ensure a livable future. I'm sure you all have children and dependents and would like there to be a livable future. And yet, all And the climate crisis, and the IPCC, the United Nations, the World Bank, and the IPCC.
All right, okay.
Stay with the rest. Is Mazza there?
I can, if you.
Yeah, stay with Mazza.
Okay, well, look, I don't know if you want to just pan across over there, but one of our people has just been arrested. He's been carried away by the police. And I want to make it as consent. Do you want me to talk? Okay. Well, look, I want to make the point, though, that these people are not the criminals. The criminals are in this building here, A&O Shearman. These are the people who are facilitating the expansion of fossil fuel industries that cause mass death, mass suffering, and have begun a process of annihilating low-lying island states. And everybody knows that's a criminal offence. Every copper here should know who the criminals are. Go in there and arrest a couple of those board members of A&O Shearman. Now, anybody that ends up in prison taking action like this, a climate defender who's taken action like this, whether it be with XR, JS, or any other group, they are political prisoners. The European Parliamentary Assembly has a definition of what a political prisoner is, and that clearly meets that definition. Any climate defender here in the UK who's ended up in prison, they are technically political prisoners. That's not emotive language, that is the definition. And our government and our courts. God, you know I'm angry about this.
Yeah, I know, and it's incredible to think that in a country like the UK, that we have political prisoners. It's just outrageous. It just goes to show the situation that we're in, and it's not just climate activists; it's activists who are involved with Black Lives Matter, Palestine. We have real life political prisoners in prison right now here in the UK, and it's just absolutely outrageous.
It is. The concept is really everybody ought to be able to understand, and that is that you have somebody who is trying to kill. It could be A&O Shearman, the board members of A&O Shearman. They know that they are going to kill huge numbers of people because they are participating in an action. Then decent people come out and try peacefully to stop them. And the state says, oh, well, the criminals are those who try to stop the killers.
Yeah.
And that is the insanity of it. But in terms of the European Parliamentary Assembly, it makes our people political prisoners. Yeah. That's the definition. Yeah. One of many definitions, but that is crucial to all of this. You're trying to stop somebody who is killing, whether that be the Israeli government or whether it be fossil fuel industries. Yeah. They kill. That's the fact. They commit crimes in accordance with the definition of international criminal law.
Yeah. It's because there is this charade going on where the criminals don't look like criminals, right? They're men in suits. They sit in boardrooms. They don't look like, we obviously, well, to the police, we obviously look like criminals. It's hidden. As I was saying earlier, you've got these huge glass buildings, but what goes on there is anything but transparent. And passers-by, even, they're like, why are you protesting? What's in this building? And you try and explain, and people just really not aware of it. We're really not aware of it. And that's why it's so important to keep coming back again and again and again. And also, John, another thing that I'm really finding at the moment is that with the media coverage, they're like, oh, you're occupying a lobby again. Oh, you're splashing some fake oil again. Well, it's not really newsworthy. And it's just outrageous because they are expecting us to do more outrageous and audacious actions so that they can cover it in their press, which should be covering the fact that millions of people are going to be killed and are already suffering and at risk of death. That is the story. They are making us, XR, become the story. They are saying to us, well, you need to find more original actions and things to do. Risking, as you can see, arrest, risking going to prison. Whereas obviously it's the media's job to be talking about what is truly going on there. The media should be here reporting on criminals in buildings like this. And that should be what they are busy with.
Yeah. Now, yesterday, at the International Court of Justice, there's hearings taking place in connection with the legal responsibilities of nation states with regard to climate change. And there was a side event led by the International Criminal Court on the proposed fifth law of ecocide. But as part of that discussion, they turned quite quickly to mass death and suffering caused by climate change. And you had professors who specialise in international criminal law saying that the International Criminal Court can act now, that the law, the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, allows for prosecutions of people who cause mass death, cause mass suffering, and annihilate low-lying island states. Well, that process has begun. So the International Criminal Court can act. Now, this is a massive story. It completely changes, so it turns on its head the notions that British media has and British politicians have. And the media, if it was a decent media, any kind of decent media at all in this country, they would have reported on those sessions yesterday, but none of them did.
Yeah.
So what is coming is the media can deny it for as long as they like, but it is absolutely inevitable that one day there will be lawyers who've acted in the interest of fossil fuel industries in this building who will stand trial. They will stand trial for having contributed to mass death, suffering, and annihilation. Yeah. That day is coming. And the court hearings yesterday were a really powerful warning to that effect, that this is coming, and they need to wake up. Now, last week, lawyers were responsible, came here, a different kind of action, where the people here with posters and placards, and they made a request to A&O Shearman to take several steps. One of them being, please ensure that your staff are allowed to choose on conscientious grounds not to participate in any action that facilitates fossil fuel activities. No response. Absolutely no response. So what do they expect us to do? What do they expect decent people to do who care about and respect life? Well, we came back.
Yeah.
The Extinction Rebellion came back today. And this is only going one way. Climate change and climate breakdown is only going one way. People are going to get more and more angry. And firms like A&O Shearman need to wake up to that fact, that people are not going to just simply lie down and let you kill so much life on this planet.
I think also what's really important to understand for these companies is that the anger is almost quite limited still now, because I think still not enough people are aware of what damage is being done and how bad the situation is. So at the moment, they actually have quite friendly, non-violent activists outside their buildings. Obviously, when this all starts to escalate more people are going to get much more angry, and they are not going to possibly be as nice as we are. No. So, in a way, we are giving them plenty of opportunity to change their ways now before the wrath of the people comes on them, because the reality is, as you say, this is only going to go one way. It is going to get much, much worse.
It is.
So,
you can understand people though acting in fury, because they're in how many years' time? 5 years' time, 10 years' time, we don't know. But at some point soon, there will be a major catastrophe here in the UK, climate catastrophe, and people may well come down here, and they may well be saying, well, right, we're going to put you lot on trial. And who knows, they may burn the blooming building down.
Yeah.
These people, they need to wake up, and they can't claim...
It's all glass, so, some bricks.
Yeah. So the key thing is that they cannot claim that they were not warned. Last week, lawyers were responsible, and exile scientists came up here and warned them. We come back today, and people here have spray painted the front of their building with fake oil. We have your attention, A&O Shearman. You cannot deny that you weren't warned. You were warned repeatedly.
So, John, I think the police are trying to take down the tripod. I don't know if you're able to come a little bit closer, hopefully not losing signal. So this is another interesting experience of, I don't think Tim can go much.
All right. Okay.
This is another interesting experience when live streaming in the city, is that you're constantly losing signal and our live stream gets cut off. But, we try and make do as best as we can. So, we have one of our, by now, iconic tripods up in front of A&O Shearman here in the city of London. As you can see, the police has come out in force I don't know if they're going to dismantle obviously they have to be, they have a duty of care to the individual. Again, this isn't something that we take lightly. It isn't comfortable or fun for us to have to be here. It's very cold. It's a bit wet. We cannot, at this stage, not do anything else other than target these climate criminals who need to be held to account, who the people need to see for what they are, and that's what we're here for. So, as you can see, there's lots of police present here today. Totally unnecessary, of course, because we are, and we're not a threat to anybody, apart from maybe the reputation of A&O Shearman today. But that's the point.
We touched on one point just there, which was the duty of care of the police officers to try and stop serious injury to our people, post on top of a tripod. But I understand that they have no concept of duty of care at all. They don't have concept of, we're okay? Yeah, they don't have concept of duty of care. Just moving, our signals coming in and out.
Yeah, so just talking
okay. So we were just talking about the duty of care the police have to try to prevent serious injury to people on top of a tripod. But I was making a point that A&O Shearman, where we are today, they don't have any concept of duty of care. They seem to completely forgot their responsibilities as lawyers. That they have a duty of care to prevent firms that they operate with and mass suffering and annihilating low-lying island states. They have a duty of care to their staff to ensure that they are warned that if they continue to work on projects, areas of work that cause mass death and suffering, that they could be called to account in a court of law. How many firms of lawyers in the City of London that work for fossil fuel industries, how many firms actually warn their staff where this is going? This is going to result in people going to court on trial, and they could go to prison for what they've done. The criminals are not out here. The criminals are in there, and they know it. They know full well what they're doing. And they have a duty of care to their staff. They have a particular responsibility to young lawyers who've just come through college. Who is warning them what their legal responsibilities are? Okay, so here we are. What are the police doing now?
So we just had one arrest, Owl the scientist. And I might go in closer and see what's happening with Death and the arrest. Cool. Yeah, follow and I'll grab any of you. Fine. Police liaison here, protest liaison. Police officer here is negotiating with Death.
Step back. All right, now.
Hello, my name's James. I'm taking action tomorrow and pre-recording this in case I get arrested. They say behind every oil well is a lawyer, and in the case of A&O Shearman, They're behind $285 billion worth of transactional work for fossil fuel industry over 4 years. It's appalling that anyone would seek to accelerate the climate and ecological emergency. 2024 has been a year of record heat. We're beyond any safe limits. More oil and gas now sets us on a path to spiralling disaster. So we call on all employees of A&O Shearman to refuse to do any work for the fossil fuel clients. We ask for any new talent to go elsewhere, and we demand A&O Shearman cut the ties to fossil fuels.